It's time now for me to re-invite the chairman of the Board of Directors of Development Bank of Nigeria, Dr. Shehu Yahaya, to come and introduce a very important personality in the House. Please, sir.
I have been warned to be as brief as possible, so all I can say is it's my distinct pleasure to introduce the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Finance. And you know what that means, because you know right now the ministers have not yet been appointed. So when I say the PermSec, Ministry of Finance, I think I don't need to elaborate. It's my pleasure for me to invite Dr. Mahmoud Isa Duse to come and present his address. He has had, of course, extensive experience, apart from the government, in the private sector with the commercial banks, so I'm sure many of you recognize him. And so please, Dr. Duse, it's a pleasure.
Thank you very much for your very generous remarks, Chairman. I'm not sure I'm that important. I'm just an obedient civil servant. The Permanent Secretary, Political and Economic Affairs, Office of the SGF, Mr. Gabriel Aduda, other heads of government agencies here present, Central Bank of Nigeria Deputy Governors, Joseph Nana and Aisha Ahmed, Mr. Gabriel, or Dr. Donald Kaberuka, former President and Chairman of African Development Bank, Vice President of Islamic Development Bank, and former Minister of Finance, Dr. Mansour Mutar, Chairman of Jaiz Bank, and former Minister of Cooperatives and Supply, Alhaji Umar Matala, members of the board, chairman and members of the board, and staff of DBN, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be at the inaugural Development Bank of Nigeria annual lecture series to discuss the role of micro, small and medium enterprises as the key to unlocking inclusive growth in Africa. Human development and empowerment plays an immense role in the success or failure of any nation. Most of the problems facing this continent can be directly tied to a lack of sufficient investment in human capital development, which has been neglected for decades. Nigeria is not left out, as it has the potential to become a major player in the global economy by virtue of its human and natural resource endowments. However, this potential has remained relatively untapped over the years. The micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises sector is arguably the largest employer of labor in Nigeria, most of which has been with very minimal government intervention. But that narrative is changing. In many developed nations across the world, governments now recognize the emerging power of MSMEs and go further to assist them with favorable policies, plans, and programs to enable their success. That narrative is also changing in Africa, and Nigeria is taking the lead. Since the inception of the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration, the government has recognized the need to pay the utmost attention to the MSMEs because they account for almost 60% of Nigeria's GDP. Yes, 60%. many of you may not even be aware that the oil sector, which we rely so much on, accounts for less than 10% of the GDP, compared to the 60% that the MSME sector is contributing. This administration has demonstrated a willingness to develop this sector by either enacting laws or setting up government agencies and institutions to address the challenges faced by the various stakeholders in this critical sector of the economy. Development Bank of Nigeria and other development finance institutions are mandated to cater specifically for sustainable growth in various productive sectors of the economy. Some of these initiatives are incorporated in the federal government's Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. The Development Bank of Nigeria is a wholesale development finance institution established to increase access to finance for the micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises and other small corporates. The specific objective of the bank is to alleviate financing constraints faced by MSMEs and other small corporates in Nigeria by providing financing, partial credit guarantees, and technical assistance to eligible financial intermediaries on a market-conforming and fully financially sustainable basis. Since the establishment of the bank in 2014 as a public limited company, the subsequent licensing by the Central Bank of Nigeria, and commencement of full operation in 2017, DBN has recorded tremendous results in addressing some of the challenges facing MSMEs through the provision of wholesale loans to financial institutions for on-lending to MSMEs and thought leadership, which is why we are here today. It's my expectation that our discussion today will ultimately lead Nigeria and indeed Africa to a glorious future where MSMEs in Africa can grow sustainably, scale exponentially, become globally relevant entities, and contribute immensely to the economic development of our continent. I wish you all fruitful deliberations.